Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, of course, depending upon where in the world you are and what time you're tuning in. Welcome to Run It Back, episode number 95. I am your host, Menelik Fernandez, and of course, the premise of this show remains the same. 95 times I've done this, and it's like it's becoming automatic finally to be able to rattle this off. The premise of this show remains the same, where we take teams that have played previously and we run it back, so to speak, where we talk about game prep, in-game adjustments, do a little bit of film review, all this stuff that's terribly niche and fun for coaches, but the average person might find a little bit boring. So I hope you continue to find value in it as I do, because I'm really enjoying it. Today is no different. We move to a matchup that is across the world. It's in Sweden, and I'm not going to pronounce it correctly. I'm very sorry, but Wetterbygden versus Luleila. And Ashley, in a second, maybe you can correct me and give me a little bit better pronunciation. But as with many of the other episodes on Run It Back, I'm very fortunate to have somebody that I call a friend, somebody that I've known for a while, join me today, who is a coach in this game. Ashley Cookson is somebody who, from afar, I've really followed your career, but I've also been in a couple super clinics with here in Canada and got to know on a personal level. He's got a mean little right to left crossover and a killer step back jump shot, just for the fans here. But Ashley has been at, let me try to do you justice with a warm welcome here. He's been at Telford College for 1 year. He's been at Basketball Victoria for 1 year as a performance coach, spent 3.5 years with McKinnon basketball, which he covered various teams and various ages with. I'm going to say Loughborough, even though he just corrected me with it. I'm sorry. Loughborough, I believe is what he said. 2 years
Perfect.
as a women's basketball head coach. Leicester Riders, which is where he was when I met him. He was there for 3 years. Then here in Canada as an assistant coach with Acadia for 1, Dalhousie for 1. He's the creator of an organization called Basketball Nomad, which he's been doing for 3 years. And then he's been an assistant coach with Great Britain's U20 women's team. And of course, spent the most recent season here at Wetterbygden as an assistant coach and youth development coach. Ashley, a very warm welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited for having you here, and it's good to catch up and see you again, my man. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the intro. Congratulations on 95 episodes. That's huge.
Thank you.
And yeah, the work you're doing is very valuable, and I'm enjoying the episodes. So yeah.
I really appreciate that. Thank you, because I'm just kind of some bum who's along for the ride, listening to some of these great coaches like yourself around the world share what they're doing. I just, I like to joke and minimalize it, for sure, but like I'm amazed and humbled that people find value in it. And I hope that I continue to provide that for people, because there's so many great coaches at so many levels, just like yourself, doing really good work that, we don't always get the spotlight. And as you know, it is a hard profession. So
Certainly is that.
indeed.
Absolutely.
Indeed. Let's start here for a little bit. Give me a little bit of background about this club, this level of basketball, the competition. For anybody who wouldn't know, what basketball is like at this level. Let's start there.
Okay, yeah. So I had some former colleagues actually coached in the league. So Jesper Sundberg, he was a Swedish guy who came over to Leicester Riders for my 3rd year.
Right.
So I'd actually been following the league for a couple of years. And then the opportunity came along when Krimesh Patel kind of recruited me across to be an assistant coach. It's a very interesting league. This season was actually probably the most competitive the league's been in a couple of years, mainly because of the quality of the younger Swedish players across the league. Particularly on our team, we actually had a very good young Swedish core. But then also, I think the level of import player took a step up this year.
Right.
There was some players on rosters that had WNBA experience. Not so much like they made a roster, but they were at a training camp.
Oh wow.
maybe made it through to some of the preseason games, and then kind of didn't make the final roster, but had that kind of experience.
Right.
And then there was also some older former WNBA players as well. So yeah, the combination of the young Swedish talent coming through and some really experienced Swedish players, quite a few national team players across the league. Mixed with that caliber of import, I guess, really made for an exciting season.
What, if any, import rules would there be in this league? Like, could you play an import at any time? Could you play as many as you want? How many per team? How'd that work?
Yeah, so this league is actually a little bit different from most other European leagues. You could actually sign up to 4 imports. So we actually had the 4. So we had a younger American first-year pro, Tyra Whitehead. Then we had Ashley Sires. She was from Australia, had played, I think, around 5 years professionally in Australia. This was her first overseas gig. And then we had Ashley Arlins, who was former professional in the UK and Romania. I think she played in Spain for a year as well. Then she took some time off. She became a mother. And we actually got her 3 years after she'd had her first child.
Okay.
So it was a little bit of an experiment. It was like, okay, let's see if Ashley's got it. And it turned out she still has it, which is great.
She can still hoop. Look at that.
Yeah, which is awesome. And then we had Taylor Brown, who was she's actually a pretty seasoned vet. She'd been playing in the Dominican Republic, Australia, spent some time in Iceland. Yeah, all over the map. So we had a good mix of experience, and also we had a young Swedish core that were age group national team players. Emma Johansson, she actually played in the senior national team as well. So yeah, we on paper we kind of projected like, okay, we're gonna make a run in the playoffs. Hopefully, we're gonna make the playoffs. And everybody else in the league kind of thought that too. But the season, the way that it played out, our performances unfortunately were not where they needed to be, and it was partly because of the strength of the league. But also, I think there's a lot of things that we would have changed as a coaching staff. We kind of need to run it back one more year. We needed a season, a full season of everyone together, because it was a really new group. And then another year. But yeah, I don't think that it's going to happen that way, but that's okay. We learned a lot from it.
I cite this often, but one of my former guests, junior college coach in Florida, said one time, and this is like a year and a half now I've been saying this, he made the comment that like everybody is basically a junior college coach at this point. They just haven't all figured it out. And what he meant by that was that like preparation times are diminishing, and you have to get right down to the meat and potatoes, so to speak, immediately, and you have to excel at teaching, and you have to convey information rapidly in a way that they understand. You're not going to have players for 3 and 4 seasons the way that you used to at the college university level. You're not going to have pro players like be with you multiple seasons. So you got to get it right like almost immediately, which is challenging as fuck, to say the least, right? It's like, man,
I think the hardest part of that is managing the culture. Like, how do we all interact and fit into this team? Like, how do the pieces fall together? And then how do we turn, our daily interactions and our daily behaviors into the performance on the weekend? Like that. That's what we really struggled with. We had some awesome practices all year.
Right.
We just couldn't really get over the hump. We went some really close games and fell short. And yeah, we thought we were making improvements, but we really weren't improving at the rate that we needed to perform. And I think, yeah, it was disappointing, but there was a lot of lessons.
For sure. Well, I mean, the simple truth is in any league, right? At the end of the year, there's, if there's 40 teams, there's 39 losers. So we've all got to take lessons, get better, that kind of thing, right? There's only one team that really walks away with it every year. Let's move into this game a little bit.
Cool.
Where in the, like, so I don't have the date of the game. Where in the season are you? What makes you pick this game? Is Layla a formidable opponent? Are they like playoff bound? Like, sort of give us the background on this team, this game, where you are, how you're doing at this point, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I picked this game because it's the most fun to run back, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was a game where we felt like we showed uh, we showed glimpses of our full potential.
Right.
And Lulio, at this point, they were undefeated, and they were in the Swedish media kind of touted to be the undefeated championship team. Like, no one's going to touch them this season. Their quality 1 through 12, 1 through 14, like if you count some of those younger players, was just above and beyond the rest of the league's rosters.
Right.
That's what everyone was saying at this point. And then we were just the team that we were 5-11, and everyone was kind of like confused, like what, like why aren't they performing? Like they have
Right.
the pieces, but they just can't put it together. Believe me, we were thinking the same thing. And so we kind of went into this game from a coaching staff perspective as, okay, let's just throw the kitchen sink at them. We played them at their place. The first game we played against them, we played like this slow, methodical style. We were like, okay, if we just play longer possessions and we take care of the ball, then they don't get out and running. Like they're a super up-tempo team,
Right.
that can score in flurries, basically. And those flurries usually just kind of coast them for the rest of the game because they go on like a 12-0 run and then no one else is coming back into the game. So we were like, okay, we could just slow the game down and take care of the ball, get through our sets. That did not work. I think we had 32 turnovers.
Okay. Right.
So this game, we kind of flipped it on its head and we were like, what are we good at? Okay, we're actually good more in broken play, playing up tempo. Yes, we're high risk, but we're also high reward when we get it right.
Right.
And that was kind of the mentality going into this game. And then on the defensive end, it was kind of, okay, how can we disrupt but keep it as simple and as clear for ourselves as possible? So what we did more so in this game was like, okay, let's, instead of looking at all of their sets, let's just look at their most common actions. And I think we picked out 4. And from those actions, let's have, okay, what's our base? How are we going to defend against it just as an automatic? And then what's our adjustment going to be? And we didn't let the players know the adjustment. But it was kind of just like, can we just execute our coverage better? Like, it's not always like, okay, what do we need to change? It's like, well, you weren't close enough. You weren't attached to the ball. You weren't in their pocket.
Right.
You didn't give yourself a chance to avoid the screen. So now we're in a bad situation because we didn't execute better. Like we just need to be better at one thing. That was kind of the theme throughout the practice in the week. And so, yeah, I guess that's the.
Love it. So you said that when we were talking before we started recording, you guys don't really do a conventional type scout. Guide me through the process from the last game to this game. How much time would you have? Are you watching video? What are you looking at on video? You obviously mentioned like doing certain things better. What did you really focus in on? What did you think were your advantages for this team?
Yeah, I guess I spoke out turn there. Maybe it is conventional.
Right.
So we had two really good volunteers who would clip video for us.
Okay.
Crewmesh, though, the head coach, he really took the lead on the scout. Like, he loves the scout.
Okay.
He loves looking at what the other team does. Okay, how can we attack this? How do we defend this and blow this up? He loves that part of the game. So he would lead on the video. However, I would go and watch video the week leading up to the game. And then sort of Monday, Tuesday, if we had the game on the weekend, we kind of sit together and collaborate a little bit. And I would challenge him. I would say, like, okay, but I think this, and then it would be a debate. But then we would come to a final resolution. Okay, this is how we're going to cover it.
Right.
And then the week leading up to the game, we sprinkle in some of their actions. Not so much explicitly telling them, like, it's going to be like, these are the personnel that's going to be in this action, and here's the set that leads to this action. Like, we didn't do that so much. It was more just like, okay, we're playing 3v3v3, and let's play against a turnout screen, for example. Or,
and that would just be like one part of something that you know that they did, but you want to work on how you're playing against that.
exactly. And sometimes we wouldn't even prescribe a coverage. We would just say, okay, defend it how you want. You guys talk about it. So then there was a little bit of trial and error throughout the week, basically. I was like, okay, we did have our stock coverages. For the most part, we played a drop.
Okay.
A drop and over in the pick and roll. And if they got downhill, we would switch. It would, like a veer, I guess, is what you call it in.
Yep.
We kind of call it a late switch, is basically what we call it.
Descriptive works.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah, the obvious is the best. Yeah, so that's kind of what we did leading up to the week. And then day before the game, we would have walkthrough. This particular game, we didn't pick out so many sets. Honestly, they don't have that many sets. They play a little bit more conceptually. Yeah, you probably see. And so, yeah, it really did suit the kind of, okay, that we just have to guard like side pick and roll. We have to guard a stagger. You know, we just kind of made it more about the actions and the actual sets itself. And then personnel.
I was just going to ask you, so like with personnel, how do you guys manage that? Are you giving them sort of like, like a couple minute video on their personnel, or are you talking about, like, how is that information getting conveyed to them?
It's video. Yeah, video, typically we would go through the team stuff first. We tried to get it down to 8 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. By the end of the season, we were showing an 8-minute video, which usually lasts to 20 minutes if you're talking, pausing, that kind of stuff. Could be anywhere up to 20 minutes, but we could try to stop it at 20. And so with the personnel specifically, it would be 3 things. So 3 characteristics that they have, and then the 3 we must. That would be it. A lot of the times we didn't even speak about their characteristics so much. It would more just be the 3 we must. And sometimes it wasn't even 3. Sometimes it was 2.
Would those we must directly tie into what those characteristics would be?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Would all of your players receive information on all of their players, or would you tailor it like, Menelik, you're guarding Ashley, so you need to know this and this extra, or would everybody be expected to know everything about Ashley, so to speak?
Yeah, I think everyone to know the overview, and then individuals to dive a little deeper. Like, hey, Ash, I think you should watch some more clips of Ellen Nation just so you get a feel for what she's doing,
Right.
and then maybe you're guiding that a little bit as well.
With matchups and rotations, do you guys script a lot of that? Like, who's guarding who going into the game? They get that in an earlier time, or is it like it's kind of up and you're doing it by feel type deal? And then following that, do girls know when they're going to play and who they're subbing for? Like, is there a depth chart used type deal?
We would give them, I would say that the second game, they knew for the most part who they were going to guard.
Okay.
Like the week going in.
Right.
They would kind of have it in their mind. I'd say the first time we played everyone, not so much. It would be closer to the game. But yeah, team to have an overview, particularly shooters. We had like a fire emojis rating.
Right. Love it.
So
Love it.
It was 3 flames for like a lights out shooter.
Right.
2 was you have to contest it. And a 1 was we specified the range where you didn't have to guard them, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So basically, if they're beyond what you perceive to be their range, you could just short it, and
that's a really common tactic in Sweden. If you have a non-shooter on the floor, it's like, we're gonna dare you to shoot. And typically, most teams will have that at some point in the game. Not often, because Sweden is like, I think it's what the league is really known for. Like the scores really run up in Sweden. They're very interested in scoring a lot, not so interested in defending.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's
my own heart. I'm unapologetically offensively minded.
Me too.
Like, I'm like, no, score more. What are we talking about here?
Yeah. It's a fun league in that respect. So yeah, I would say like we had some other things too. We had like turtle for a slower defender. So like if we get to switch, we want to attack that.
Right.
These are not my own things, by the way. Like that's Zico.
But you put the graphics right on the paper type deal.
Exactly. Yeah. So the graphic on the paper, I think that really helps them. Quick glance. Okay. Yep. Turtle. And then the other ones was mouse. Like, okay, we can attack her. Usually, we'd a lot of the times we had a bigger matchup because we had Ashley Ty was a much bigger 3 compared to the rest of the league.
Okay.
Bigger and stronger, I would say. And she could play the perimeter and post up smaller guards, so that was definitely to our advantage too. Yeah.
You gotta be careful with those emojis. I had a former guest who, for mucks or nons as they called them, they used the poop emoji, and I'm like, you can get in trouble with that one. Let me tell you, if somebody finds that scout, it's gonna be rough.
Yeah, the scout is gold dust. Do not lose the scout.
Yeah, please don't lose this, because there goes my job. So going from general to specific, what did you kind of identify as your advantages this second time around? You mentioned you were going to play with a little bit more pace, but were there any key matchups you wanted to attack? Were there any particular sets that you wanted to go to? What did you guys really land on for this one?
We wanted to get some of our shooters more involved. So Erica and Ashley, we wanted them to have opportunities to shoot the ball a little more.
Right.
So some of the sets that we'd put together, I think we introduced circle, which was basically the point of attack was a flare screen at the top of the key.
Okay.
So yeah, we put that in for our shooters. Uh, Honestly, it wasn't so much about attacking matchups. It was more like just how are we going to create high value shots. We felt like pushing the tempo is the way to do that.
Right.
And the other part also is we have to win the rebounding battle, um, both ends of the floor. So we tagged up this year. I
Oh,
say tagged
wow.
up in inverted commas because I'd love to know your thoughts on that. Like, do you think we tagged up?
I don't think I saw it
Um,
in the video, to be
no,
perfectly honest with you.
no. So like our version of tagging up obviously wasn't. I don't think it was textbook, um, but throughout the season we did generate a lot of offensive rebounds. So maybe it didn't look like tagging up, but the outcome that we would have liked, which was create extra possessions, I think it did happen. Um,
Interesting.
yeah.
No, I'm actually so I'm on my second scouting job now, and when I was in doing the job in Taiwan most recently, I was really a big advocate of it. I was like, we need to tag up. It is the difference that we would need that would make us win more games. And the coach really liked the idea, but was scared to implement it. Just didn't feel that like he was confident in his coaching style to do it. And it would just every week it would be like, well, what do you guys have? And I was like, tag up type deal. I'm curious to know what made you guys decide to implement it, and um, you know, how did you feel overall about it? Like you said, it seems that you got the result that you wanted. Would you do it again?
I
Side note, I got
honestly,
to get Aaron on. Aaron Fern, if you end
yeah,
up
yeah,
listening to this, hit me up. Let's go.
yeah. He'd be really interesting to talk to about it. I think I really like the. It's a very easy concept to understand when you explain it to somebody. It's not easy to do in practice, um, or practically, I guess. The reason why is because the ingrained behaviors of a basketball player from the time they are 10 years old to when we get them when they're in a professional team, it's it's the other way.
Yeah, turn around, go back. Like, or
And if
unless you're
it's
one of two or three, something like that.
yeah, and if it's offensive rebound, usually it's chase it and just go and get it with, reckless abandon.
Right.
Whereas tagging up is, can I get on the high side, be disciplined, push them in if I can. If they leak out, I still stay on the high side. Like, it's actually more complex than first meets the eye. Um, and I think you need a large sample size. And our sample size wasn't large enough because we didn't emphasize it enough in practice,
Right.
in live situations. Uh, this is just like in reflection. Maybe I'm wrong with this. This is not like quantified. I don't think we focused on it enough. Um, yeah, in live situations, and we didn't do it enough in game to, yeah, to say, okay, we definitely tagged up this game. However, we did have good numbers on the offensive rebound, so maybe it did help us a little bit with the extra possessions piece of it.
You mentioned discipline. Did you find that you had to remind often Coke's behavior, all that kind of stuff, or did you find that they kind of took it and ran with it pretty easily?
When you reminded them.
Fair.
Yeah, and that's not where you want to be. Like, it's a perception action coupling game. Like, they have to see what's happening in the environment and come up with the movement solution that's required, and that takes like cognitive load. So
Right.
we can't be constantly telling them to do something. Um, and yeah, they just reverted kind of back to the ingrained habits, and yeah, that's fine. I think it needs to be for me. It needs to be rethought. Like I really like the idea and the concept, but then how do you teach it? How do you integrate it so that it makes sense? And yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know if there's a hybrid either. Like that's
Interesting.
what I was trying to figure out. Like is it like 3 go and 2 get back? Like yeah, 3 tag up, 2 get back. Like I just don't know what the answer is. I'm really interested to know what other people think. Other people that have tried to implement it as well.
So I did it this past year with a high school team that I coached because I found that the difference in high school basketball, at least up here in Toronto, has everything to do with runouts and almost nothing to do with playing in the half. Right.
Yeah.
So, like, one of the questions I typically ask is, like, what kind of pace do you guys want to play at? What percentage in transition would be great? And I find, at least like when I'm looking at synergy, the answer with better teams is that they're about 20% in the half and about 20% in transition, about 80% in the half. That's sort of the number, somewhere in there, right? 3/4 in the half, 4/5 in the half, somewhere in there. But in high school, I find that, I don't know if the coaching is bad, if the talent only thinks a certain way or whatever, but it's at least 50-50 transition half court. It's probably more in the transition. And if you're playing with inferior talent, taking away the run out and everything that has to do with it has everything to do with winning, in my opinion, because uh, if you're playing with superior talent, once they start getting out, they crush 1 or 2 dunks, or they get a couple easy layups. Obviously people's self-confidence starts going like this, and your game is done. Whereas, if you're still there, if you're within 5-6 points at the end of the game, you got a real chance of winning that game, even though they're superior talent. And I found the tagging up really helped because the shot selection was not great at high school, the most recent time that I coached it, and poor shot selection leads to more breakouts, in my opinion. And if you're tagging up, there's nobody running. You're on the high side, as you mentioned, takes away that, and it slows everything down. Now you force teams to play in the half, which unfortunately most of our teams up here are not practicing. They're doing more fast break drills and 3-man weave variations and all that kind of stuff or whatever. So it's like, all right, let's see what you can do in the half.
I'm
And I
interested to
felt
like the high school angle there. Maybe the 50-50 transition versus half court. Do you think that the type of defense also affects that? So high school, you typically have like more pressing
right.
style of defense.
Yeah.
I know in the pro game there's way less of that
Yeah.
because you kind of get punished. Um, so yeah, that's
I think that
interesting.
definitely factors in. I think the larger percentage is the poor shot selection offensively, and then
Which
that
leads to yeah,
leading to the bust out, right? Like longer rebounds, or especially if you're playing superior talent where they're bigger, stronger, faster, they're going to get a larger percentage of that rebound, and then they're going to bust out and be running. They're leaking out and they're gone. So if your shot selection is poor, you're just aiding them, type deal. And I really felt the tagging up helped. But uncommon, and like you said, what is the right combination? 3, 4 to the glass? Who knows? Like like maybe it is all 5, and maybe it's different for each team. Maybe there's a variation that needs to be explored there. But I think that's an awesome topic, and I'm actually kind of surprised that you guys did it, because quite frankly, in watching this game, I didn't really see that. So that's
yeah.
intriguing. Moving on a little bit to some in-game stuff. What is important to you? Like, are you guys as assistants tracking anything on the bench? And when you get a box score, say at the end of a quarter, at the end of a half, What are you looking at on the box score that's of importance to you, if anything? And then how does that factor into how you implement change in those huddles or halftime speeches?
For me, I use the box score as propaganda.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a tattoo that says that. Box
So,
score is
and
propaganda. It's
yeah.
all a lot.
So anything that I think needs to be influenced, I will back it up with a number, rightly or wrongly, like
Interesting.
whether it's true or not.
Right.
So I'll exaggerate the number if I feel like it's going to spark something in our team that needs to be sparked.
Do you ever get called on that by them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But only once this year.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. But,
and it was one player who noticed, because they look at the box score, and yeah, everyone else is like, okay. So yeah, like I think going into halftime, we typically will sit down, we'll look at the box score, but we kind of have an idea of, okay, like what's hurting. We kind of go through the list of what's hurting us,
right.
what's helping us, and then any adjustments that we're going to make moving forward. That's kind of the way that we look at it. And then, yeah, if we can either propaganda or it's a real number, we present that to them. And yeah, that's kind of how we do it.
As far as your coaching staff, are you guys doing anything extra that you're tracking on the side, like I don't know, deflections or defensive kills or any of that kind of stuff?
No, I didn't track this year. And honestly, I enjoyed it a little bit more.
So this would be my follow-up question. Having been a coach on teams that both want you to do that and teams that, no, man, I'd rather you watch the game and contribute.
Yeah.
What do you think is more effective? And I think I know your answer from what you're saying, but like, what's your opinion on that? Like, if you become a head coach tomorrow again, are you going to have your staff track stuff? Is that a value to you, or would you rather your coaches are involved?
I think the answer is both.
Okay.
Because there was, so I was the lead assistant. We had another assistant for the first half of the year. Then the second half of the year, it was just me and Krimesh again. I think that we need all four eyes on the game.
Right.
If we could, the game, like holistically, and then obviously as the assistant coach, you can be a little bit more objective. Like I'm not as emotionally invested in the game.
Right.
So that's where, again, like I'd use the box score a little bit. But also I just try and track possessions, like, like, hey, Krimesh, the last 4 possessions they've killed us with pin down to a duck in, for example. Like how are we going to kill that? Maybe we need a timeout. Maybe we can just talk to them in a huddle.
Right.
So I'm keeping track, but I'm not bound to a sheet. And I guess the other way that I track is just notes. Like I see something, I just make a note of it, and it's kind of like a running time notepad. But I wasn't this season like tied into that. I was trying to be a little bit more present, like talking to individual players on the bench. I think that, yeah, that was the way to add value with the circumstances. But I think both, because it's really valuable to have things that you track and present back to the team. But I think you need more eyes.
Yeah. Well, I think the more eyes is the key part of that there for sure. Right. Like if there are fewer coaches, like in this instance with your team, I'd rather have all of my coaches watching the game and being more involved that way than, hey, who shot that again, or whose rebound was that, or did we deflect that twice or once? Like,
because a lot of that you get in review anyway.
Right.
like, so I actually so pretty much led on the scouting stuff more so this season. I was leading on the review part of the equation when it comes to video. So I would do a team review, usually on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and then leading into the next game. And I would just pick things out of our game model that I think we need to improve upon.
Right.
I would show some good clips. I've always finished with like kind of a highlight reel of like, this is what we did really well. We need to keep doing this, and this is how we could do it better. And then I think the really important part of the review process was actually the individual clips, because then you can get into a little bit more of a heated discussion with individuals about, okay, what did you see here? What should you have done?
Yeah.
It wasn't so much calling out in front of the team, because what I found with the culture in Sweden is if you do that, you kind of lose them.
Interesting.
Yeah. And maybe that's a generational thing a little bit as well. But I think it was, I mean, sometimes, yes, you do call out individuals in front of the team. However, I do think that this was a little bit more effective, like getting into the nitty gritty of individual improvements just on a one-to-one basis. I think that's where you like find some big improvements and can refer back to during the practice. Like, hey, remember we watched that clip? So yeah,
This
I mean,
is
nothing
this is
unique
it
about
right
that.
here.
It's just, yeah, nothing unique about it. It's just, that's just what we did. And then with the individual clips too, I would kind of pick out things that were in their performance plan. Like if it's something that they're not really working on right now, then we'll leave that alone. Like that's another battle at another time. But these 3 clips, I'm going to show them. And sometimes I would send them the whole thing and let them interpret it themselves. So yeah, that's kind of how we worked as a staff. I was doing the review stuff more so, and Crewmesh was doing the scout.
Which I think is a perfect segue for my last question before I get into some video. Do you do anything where in this review process where you sort of compare your scout preparation to the result, or the, like, you, after sitting through the game and watching how well or unwell you execute in any particular scenario, do you ever try to equate it to, well, we gave them this information and they did this, that's execution, or here we gave them this information and they were probably not well equipped enough to deal with this particular coverage or something given what we gave them? Do you do anything that's sort of like a self-evaluation of your preparation?
Yeah, absolutely. That was close to a conversation with myself and Crewmesh for sure. We had a couple of debates this year about zone.
Right.
We try to play a little more zone. And I just think, for me, our personnel wasn't up to the task of zone, and we didn't rebound well out of zone.
Okay.
And then we didn't have enough reps within the zone in practice. Yeah, and
I
so
think
then
in this particular game, you guys went to it for one possession. It was actually going to be one of my questions about it.
yeah, and it's kind of like I understood Crewmesh's philosophy on it, and he kind of wanted to disrupt the rhythm of the game with the teams. This is how he had played with other teams when he's head coach, and very successfully. But with this particular group, we just didn't have it in us, which is okay. And I think, yeah, this game I remember having the conversation during the game. We went zone one possession, and he kind of turned to me. He was like, "No more." I was like, "Yeah, good."
No, that's not going to be what we're doing.
Yeah,
Love it.
let's dive in.
All right. I think I pulled 10 or 12 clips from this game. Like I said to you before in preparation, I'll play each clip a couple times. Let's see if playback speed is okay for you. Does that look smooth and it's
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Great. Whoa, I skipped ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
basically I'll play it and then I'll try to fumble through a description, and then all just what do you see? Would you run it again, etc., all that kind of stuff? Would you defend it differently? So this
Yep.
first clip is just their first play. They
Mhm.
come down, it's a horn set. They enter to the offensive left forward. And then it turns into what I would call flex action, right? So there's the corner screen and then the pin down to follow. They don't really get anything out of that. So they attack with ball screen where you guys are in. You're dropping over, like you mentioned. Turns into a late switch. Get a little bit of a mismatch size wise at the offensive right elbow. She goes left and misses her layup, and you guys go out. Do you have the set? How do you feel you defended the set? Is there anything that sticks out that you would do different? Just talk to me about what you see in it.
You know what? I got to check the scout to see if we had the set first of all. No, so we didn't have it. I think this was actually something that they ran first play some other games.
Right.
For us, we switched the like for like, which was this is kind of how we want to guard it.
Right.
Chase pin down. We're attached there. Obviously, we do get to our drop, so we actually call this white. And this is a good switch for us. Like Taylor maybe could have actually bullied her way over this, but we will stay with this matchup.
This is pretty like
from here, we like our whole philosophy with our on-ball defense was wide drives. If we force a wide drive, no help. So wide drive from the elbow here would be like basically this, a little wider though, would have been preferable. Like taking a kind of outside the charge circle, making it taking like an extended hook. So yeah, this is not the worst for us. And obviously the outcome becomes something that we enjoy. So we have Ash Tyre with a rebound, pushing herself.
Educate me a little bit in terms of the wide drive and forcing it. What are the teaching points that you convey to your ladies about how to have that happen?
Yeah, so it really was a get it done kind of I guess instruction.
Okay.
If we can force them to, from an angle, let's say they're on the wing. The wing is the easiest point of reference, because if we can take them below the block or outside the elbow, then that's a wide drive. We don't have to help. We're not in a rotation. They don't create a 2v1 essentially.
Okay.
So that was kind of the philosophy. We want to neutralize as many possessions as possible with our on-ball defense.
Love it. And then talk to me about the help, no help situation. So in what I would say is most common in this scenario would be that this low woman would be your help in this scenario. Yeah. What is the judgment of when to go, not go, in terms of helping? Because hey, that's wide, or hey, that's a straight line drive type deal.
Exactly that. So if it's a straight line, Tyra would go. If it's not, if they think they can take care of it themselves, then they don't go.
So that, like, really it's a judgment factor, right? Like there's subjectivity to it in terms of what that help defender thinks. Like, I thought you were you made them bottleneck enough that I didn't have to come, versus I thought, that was straight line drive. I better get over there.
Perception, action.
Yeah,
That's the game.
that's it. Love it. The next one is it's not your first set of the game because you had a fast break to start, but it's the first one you kind of run. So, I mean, there's a wing entry and we dribble up to the top. At the same time, it kind of looks like a mover blocker concept to me, where you've got a high screen and a low screen as you have the two cutters. So 3 out, 2 in type deal. So we move it to the offensive right side, continue, and you have the flare screen up top and the low screen on the original strong side. And we move it to the girl who was coming off of the flare. No real advantage there. Throw it into the post. And she goes underneath, shoots kind of a hard contested shot. So without being married to the result, talk to me a little bit about, running this first set. What are you looking to attack? How well you think they executed? What you would do differently? Any of that stuff?
Yeah, so this was circle for us. The timing and sequencing of this one was a little off. Also, the execution of our screens was bad too. Right. So if you go back to the start, so we're looking to get Erica into the ball screen here with Tyra.
Right. So 13 and looks
exactly.
like 15 coming right now, right?
Yeah.
So.
If we set the screen, we put ourselves, we're not trying to get something off of this, but we have to make the defense play honest in this situation.
Right.
And so we're trying to create late arrivals essentially.
Right.
And how we do that is by, actually setting the screen and using it.
Right.
So that would be, that would be the first thing. It's like, okay, if you're going to ghost it out and you have an advantage, and we throw it back to you, Tyra, and you attack a closeout, then that's a different scenario. But in this situation, we're in an execution. We're trying to really set our screens. And then the timing of this, we probably want to have I actually don't know numbers of our team. Sorry for this.
No, it's okay. I don't remember half of them.
So Ashley is now sprinting the baseline.
Right.
And we kind of want to have the timing of this where she slows down a little bit so that we're getting that pin down and the flare screen happening at the same time. So we're really stretching out so basically, so there's no help responsibilities on either of the screens. We are looking at the flare as the priority. So I think that we do get good contact. Yeah, so just run it forwards a little bit. So we pass back to Taylor. Here, yeah. And then we get this flare screen. So we did get good contact. We could have so now we get to switch. We really want to attack this. Anytime that we get an advantage, whether it's positional numbers or a mismatch, we're in dominoes. We play the concepts of dominoes.
Right.
So we always want to go to, whether it's a matchup and we're playing through the guard or we're playing through the big, it doesn't matter. We want to attack that matchup. We're in dominoes. All bets are off. We find the domino. We attack it.
Right. So in this one, after that switch, that first one has kind of fallen already, so to speak. In
exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So if we'd had a little bit more awareness there, Ash might have been able to get a slip early. And that's why I was saying the pin down needed to happen at the same time.
Right.
So that there was no help responsibilities, could have been an open layup. But we don't get to that, that's fine. We get the matchup. This is a good shot for us. Ash is just a little rushed here. I think she could have taken a few kind of crab dribbles, got herself square to the backboard, kind of went up the same side. She's a lefty.
Right.
So it would have been nice of her going up the same side, maybe giving her a pump fake, trying to draw the contact.
Talk to me on her drive. Talk to me a little bit about penetration principles, if you have any. As you said, the first domino has probably fallen, but when she goes, I noticed the cut comes from in behind. This girl right here is going, and everybody else is sort of static. What are your penetration principles that you teach, if there are any, on terms of a baseline drive from the post?
A little bit more holistic than like if this happens, then this. It's
Okay.
more so just find the open window. So if you see the back of your defender's head and you have an opportunity to cut, then do so.
So
Um,
any of your girls could go, basically. It's a matter of perception, action, coupling type deal, basically.
yeah, we didn't really have hard and fast rules.
Right.
We would like to fill the weak side corner in most situations. We would like to fill the weak side 45 to force that 2-on-1.
Right.
Ghost cuts is kind of the one where it's like, okay, that's perception action. Like, what do I see? Do I have space? Who am I? Like, as an individual, am I better at cutting to the basket? Am I better at holding space and shooting a three?
Right.
So all these things factor in. But yeah, we
So,
didn't have any hard rules when it came to spacing off the ball. It was more just find the open windows as a general concept.
and then the last one in your block remover circle set, screen locations for your 2 in. I mean, first we sort of missed up top. We talked about it. We get the first flare on the other side. And the pin down's a little bit hard here in terms of, I think because of the timing, she ends up missing it. But do you have specific locations where you want everything to happen? Or is it sort of an area that you're aiming for?
In this particular set, we would like to be a little higher and wider so that we are leaving space behind.
Gotcha. I got one of your under outs here. Just, sort of talk to me, I guess, wrinkles or what you see in terms of execution. So it's like 3 of the ladies sort of form a box set. One starts on the rim line. That rim line is cutting strong side out off of a pin in. We enter there. Inbounder exits opposite. And this sort of turns into like a gate or elevator screen where she's coming up the middle. We kind of fumble the ball and don't get the read we want out of it. So I guess we go into play after the play stuff, which sort of turns into a Spain ball screen, which, I love. We shoot the little jump shot off that left block. Talk to me about execution of the original action, and then talk to me about play after play. Is it actually scripted to go into Spain here if the wrinkle on the under out doesn't work?
Yeah, it was a script. It was a scripted play. We have Ash set in the back screen in the Spain pick and roll there. It is a big to big, so potentially we don't get the kind of advantage that we'd like in this situation. But we do have a shooting big in the screen. That would be my takeaway with that one is we typically don't want to have 2 bigs.
And then the under out action with the elevator coming up or whatever. Do you guys? Do you have counters to that don't lead into Spain? Like, I think the typical way to guard that would be switch ball side, right? So, like, are you into something different if the set doesn't work and you're in a counter versus this where you're going directly into Spain? If that makes sense. I don't know if I worded that properly.
Sorry, repeat the question. I just got
So to me, what this looks like to me is that your under out didn't work, and then you guys went into Spain, because I have a couple of your Spain sets later on that you run. Whereas if the under out worked, I think you would have a shot drive option for this girl right here at the top. And if that was the case, if it had worked, if you had good timing, etc., would you still be going into a Spain ball screen here, or would you just be playing out of the under out action off of the elevator?
Yeah, if we can create an advantage, so we're creating a late arrival,
right?
So the closeout and Taylor there, then yeah, we'd be playing out of our dominoes principles.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah.
Next one I believe is one of their under outs, just defending it. Let me get there. Sorry. Uh, it's their side out actually. So they do pin down zipper into top ball screen basically. So for anybody who's listening, there's a pin down and a zipper cut on the offensive left side of the floor, immediately into top ball screen, and then they drive that and hit. So Ash's team tags from the single side. They hit that single side tag and miss the shot. Talk to me about the way you guard it, if there's anything you would do different about your coverage, if you have it, any of that stuff.
Yeah, so the first thing that we actually discussed was switching from the inbounder to try and blow up the zipper.
Right.
We would typically do that against the zipper cut.
Okay.
We chose not to because of matchups. We wanted to try and keep Taylor on Brooke as much as possible.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what we decided there. Taylor in this possession, she needs to stay way more attached.
So I was going to ask if you had actually changed your coverage to under, because it looks like she was going to go under and then decided last minute to get back over.
Yeah, so the way that we tried to teach over and under was be attached, and if you can get under, if you can duck under in the last second, then you can do so. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
It does make sense to you. It didn't make a lot of sense to our players. So we were giving them a choice, but the priority was to stay attached and then see what happens from there. Like once you get to the point of the screen, it then becomes obvious whether you can go over or under. If you are in no man's land and in between, like, okay, maybe I can get under this one, maybe I can get over. Well, the screener can move. Moving screens are not called,
I was actually going to ask you what that was like there as well, because it looked like with the butt screen in the first clip that I had, there was definitely a little bit of leverage that she got away with.
Oh yeah. I mean, like that's going to happen. I mean, if referees were calling every moving screen in a game, the game would never be played. And the way the game's going now, it's like how much can you get away with when it comes to moving screens like that? You should be, applauding players that can get away with moving screens.
100%.
So yeah, that was the general philosophy there. Was we definitely don't want to go under on Brooke so much, because she can definitely shoot the ball from out there. She can shoot it from the three off the triple. So no, we don't. I think, excuse me, when I was talking to Taylor about this clip, it was just be more attached. Like the zippers barely touched her.
Right.
You could really be in a pocket there. And then, just make a decision at the point of the screen, but don't try and duck under this early, because then she can just stop behind it and shoot it. And if we do a better job of taking care of it with two, then we don't have Ashley helping from the strong side there.
So talk to me a little bit about that. Are you typically a team that will help off of the strong side? Like I find this a little bit unusual to not tag from the double side and have your X5 be involved with slowing it up until 31 gets back in front. It's a little strange to me to be this pulled in. Is it something that you guys, are willing to do often? Do you ever consider peel switching in behind? Talk to me about the principles there.
No, and this is part of the reason
I love
why.
Matter of fact, Raj. No.
And honestly, like this is part of the reason why we didn't have the success that we wanted throughout the season. It's like we got to stay disciplined. Like we had a lot of players that psychologically wanted to help their teammates,
right?
Which is not necessarily a bad thing. It means that for the most part, we had a team that got along with each other, had really pleasant interactions with each other. That's awesome.
Right.
But it's not conducive to performance sometimes. Like, Ash, you just got to let that be and stay with the shooter. and then see what happens from there. Like if you play your role, if you take responsibility for what you need to do in this situation, and trust that the other four players in our team do the rest, then we're in a good spot. But if we're constantly thinking, oh, I have to help here, I have to help there, that makes it tough. And that's a theme for our team. We did overhelp too often.
In an ideal world, would you play this the way that I'm sort of drawing, where 31 would get back, this X5 would be involved, the X's would not be this low, she would be out still hugging,
Absolutely, yeah.
and then you would tag it from either high or low depending upon what
Yeah.
your team concept was?
Yeah, I would say for the most part we tag from the low.
Okay,
Um,
that would be over.
unless we felt like it was something in preparation, like in a scout, that we were like, okay, this is very scripted. We can get the early bump,
Right.
and have the high defender be the tagger. So yeah, that's kind of typically the way we went with that.
This is a horn set you guys ran. I liked it a lot. Just wanted to kind of walk through it. Enter to the offensive right forward. You get a chin screen on the other side. And then that turns into an immediate rip or back screen. And obviously you get the switch out of that. We don't duck in, we pop. And the offensive left corner actually raised up in this. And then from there, I think we're into play after play. So we get a bit of a shuffle cut at the other elbow and we shoot the long three. Talk to me about, execution. Talk to me about what you're aiming for in this set. Talk to me why you're running it now. I like this set a lot. I actually use this set myself.
Yeah. I think this set we ran a lot from a simplicity point of view. Like, okay, we haven't had a score in the last kind of 4 possessions.
Mm-hmm.
We called it 5.
Okay.
And we actually had a variation of this too. So the players could kind of decide whether. So Eber actually, she made the cut off the opposite elbow, then sets the back screen.
Mm-hmm.
But she could also receive the screen from Ashley as a pin down,
Right.
to come back up. So we kind of left that to the players, unless we really wanted, a touch for our big.
Right.
And that's what made it a little bit easier a little bit harder to scout, because we added that variation in. But on that one, we clearly could have got the switch here. Like,
Yeah.
if Ash just runs straight into, I think that's their point guard, so Brooke. If she just runs straight at the point guard, then they have to switch. and that's something that we needed to do a better job of in general. Yeah.
We're talking about like that. Just duck
Exactly.
in right in front of her. Yeah.
Yeah, like make it more of a diagonal cut, get right in front of her, make them have to switch, or it becomes a double, and then Eber gets wide open. So, or we have Ash at the skip on the weak side there.
Let me ask you, in this set, pretty much exactly where I am, what is your viewpoint on leaving the corner player in the corner versus raising them as she does in this? And the reason that I ask, and the reason why I hear different points of view, is that this girl that we're talking about, who could run right into it, they can tag if you keep your player in the corner. They can't if you lift them. But if you don't get it, like you don't in this, then you're ending up with spacing that becomes a little bit awkward, as you do here when you second side the ball.
Exactly. Yeah. I believe that we didn't script this. I think that we left it to the player's discretion. I think. Okay. From memory anyway. Yeah, like I think the adjustment that Ash could have made there, I think the timing of the cut, the lift, was pretty good. Could have been a little bit earlier. But then once she saw that the ball was coming back to the top to Eber, after she set the back screen, then get back down to the corner.
Right.
maybe you could play a guard-to-guard handoff from there. But yeah, clearing the help from the low side. But it also depends on who is the help. Is the help the smallest defender? In which case, maybe you stay in the corner. If it's a bigger defender that they can switch from, then maybe we clear them out and see if we can we can create the matchup without any help.
Love it. I think we're into the 2 horn sets here. No, it's a Spain pick and roll here. I think I have 2 of these actually. Talk to me a little bit about your top screen positioning angle. For me, it's a little bit uncharacteristic for them to actually come out and seek that screen. For anybody who's listening, it's your real typical Spain pick and roll. You get attack from the offensive right slot, change sides of the floor, you get the back screen, and then she attacks downhill and shoots semi-contested, but makes it. And you know what? Maybe I'll pair this with the second one and you could compare contrast because they're both Spain and
Sure.
I'll help with the interest of time. Second one, same idea. We actually set almost like a pin down into the Spain this time, which I like. I used to call this stack up. And then basically it's the same idea from here. We're attacking left and you get the Spain pick and roll at the nail. But at this time, your offensive right corner pulls in. And now it looks like we're trying to empty out and either set up a duck in on the empty side or get a drive, of which we drive and go baseline and second side it for a 3. So compare contrast for me, please. I'll go back to the first one and I'll play them relatively slow for you.
Sure. The first one, yeah, the position of the ball screen wasn't great. We got to make contact on that one. The cue for Tyra, number 15, was talking to her about aiming for the back pocket.
Right.
And she did improve upon that, but yeah, in this game she had a few where she starts in a good wide position. This was just her general tendency, but not so much. Yeah, I guess she did there as well. And then she gets skinny.
Yeah.
She gets skinny before the contact, and that happened a lot. And yeah, we worked on that. Erica is one of our best shooters we have in the back screen there. She always sets a really good back screen, which obviously helps her get open. So the execution to this point was pretty good. Taylor Brown shooting a mid-range jump shot. She's the exception to the rule, I would say, in our team. Yeah, she was an incredible scorer in the mid-range, and we never wanted to take that away from her. So yeah, obviously she had the positional advantage. She takes it downhill. She makes that shot perfect. This one, I'll explain how this was supposed to go. Yeah, so pin down into the Spanish. Again, Tyra's contact could have been a little bit better on that screen. We want smash and separate all of the time. So what we were looking to do here.
Actually, let me jump in real quick there. You said you want smash and separate all the time on only the first screen or on both the first and the nail screen? Do you always want hit and hold on the nail?
Sorry, did I say always?
You did, yeah.
That was a mistake. Not always. I would say most of the time when we're in execution, so when we're trying to execute a set, we really want to hold the screens.
Okay.
Yeah, having said that, in Spain pick and roll, yes, there will be times where you could slip out of it. Absolutely. The back screen and the ball screen.
Right.
But the first one, I would say we want to make contact on that.
Okay.
So that we're making the screener's defender commit, and then obviously after the back screen they have to make a choice. So yeah, and then this is where the play extends a little bit. So what we were trying to do is get the ball to Erica, so number 13 at the top of the key, and she would immediately boomerang back to Ebba. So Ebba has the ball now, and then we would set this flare screen. We have Amelia, number 81, setting a flare screen for Erica.
Right.
So it would have been boomerang and then into the flare screen, which we actually had some success with a little later in the season.
Love it. It would have been empty side, would have been a great shot.
Yeah. Usually it would be, an under would be a 3. If they went over, you could attack the closeout, play from there.
Love it. This is the 1-2-3 zone that I saw in there.
Why did you put this in?
I just wanted to know. I mean, obviously, I get a little bit of perception given what we spoke about in this. But for me, I was like, did they just run 2-3 for one possession? What happened there? So I was curious, sort of what happens on the bench where that happens and how you felt you played it and, what your teaching principles are. Anything quick that you could talk about there.
Honestly, I think we played it pretty good.
Yeah, it looked well. Like I liked it.
Yeah, we typically try and match it up as much as we can, particularly when the ball goes to the side. So like any high post catch, like you see Emilio like creeping up there on 15.
Right.
So yeah, trying to match it up. We did a really good job of disrupting the passes, making them like tough angles with our arms. We didn't allow any skips. So yeah, like it was a decent possession of zone. I think on the bench, the conversation was kind of like litmus test, like let's try it out, see if we have some success with it. I mean, for me, it's like, what's the outcome? They get an offensive rebound. So yeah, just change the rhythm a little bit, see if we could implement it in-game adjustment.
And it didn't pass the test, basically.
Fizzled out.
Love it.
Yeah. No, I think we did a really good job defensively of trying to neutralize them man to man. So I think that we just wanted to see if we could maybe throw off their rhythm a little bit. I actually don't recall what the exact conversation was, but yeah.
Love it. And then next one is, I'm not sure if this was supposed to be a horns or a double set, but we enter the offensive left forward and we get a little give and go action, help off of the ball side, and they shoot an open 3 and miss it. Talk to me about the way that you played it and how you would do it differently, and if you have the set. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it's supposed to be 77 or if it's supposed to be horns, but it ends up becoming a double set with the give and go.
Yeah. So we fall short at the first hurdle yet again. So basically we're trying to stay at home on this one, trying to blow this hand up off.
Right.
And yeah, we don't want to be helping from there. We probably want to be helping for the weak side. So that would be Eber helping instead of Tyra. So yeah.
And then
it's 24 to shoot.
I would ask again, I think I asked this and you just simply said no, but did you at all consider for anybody who's watching, the peel switch, which actually ends up happening here? Did you at all consider that as an option in your defense?
Yeah, that's actually an emergency that we
just got to get out there.
We honestly, we did speak about it, but it happened a lot just in emergency situations. There wasn't many kind of scouting situations where it was the first option.
I see.
And maybe it was the case of like we gave them too many like possibilities. Maybe we should have been like, no, this is how we're doing it. One way.
I got you.
And so then maybe they commit a little bit more to that plan. But yeah, this was just bad defense. Like, what can I say?
I've actually gone to a full peel switch now with one of my travel teams. I just found that they want to help off of the ball side so much that I'm like, all right, well then we're just
why fight it?
Yeah, why fight it? Like you're gonna do it, so I might as well just put it in. And there's fewer people in rotation then, depending upon the angle of attack, etc.
Yeah, like similar concept for us, like trying to neutralize ball screen with drops, like trying not to help as much, keeping them to wide drives as much as possible. Yeah, like I believe I have a similar philosophy. Like if you can just stay out of rotations as much as possible, whereas maybe 5 years ago for me it was like, okay, we need to work our rotations, we need to be great in the scramble. It's like, no, let's just stay out of the scramble. Like we don't need to be there.
Yeah.
just do a better job of guarding the ball
Yeah.
and,
Guard your yard.
making
Stay in front of it.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
This one is defending a handoff and back. I think we're only two more clips here. Actually, sorry. I think you're good on time, as you said. Still.
Yeah, I'm good. I will need to go very soon though.
All right. Appreciate you though. Handoff to one side, and then basically like a boomerang handoff again. And it looks like we were trying to set up some sort of ball screen type action, and then she just slips out of it. And they've raised the help up above the free throw line. Talk to me about how you guarded it, what you would do differently in an ideal world.
Yeah, sorry, I just need to watch this one again.
No problem.
Yeah, I think we spoke about this in video. So it was perfect switches, like pretty much like for like. We go, yeah, we switch this one. Ash is on the inside. That's kind of where we want to be when we switch. And yeah, we just don't need to give this up here.
Right.
How would we do it differently?
Just
Ash, just don't overplay. Just stay in front. Like, look at where they are in the shot clock as well. Yeah.
Perfect. And I believe this is the last one, a little bit celebratory here. I was curious we're FIBA, so we don't have live timeout or whatever, but like what planning has gone into this sort of last play? So, I mean, for anybody who's listening, basically there's 49 seconds left in the game. We've got a big stop. We're down 2 points. And, we come down the floor and it's a bigger girl carrying it, who I don't think is one of your primary ball handlers, gives it up at the half court mark. We get some penetration. We get a pass back up top to the fill behind, and then a second side and a huge knockdown to put you up and effectively win the game. Talk to me about, their execution, if they're running anything that's familiar, if this is just good players making a good play.
I would say it's good players making plays, but it is by design. Like we wanted to push the tempo of the game.
Right.
We at halftime we actually spoke about inbounding the ball much quicker than we were.
Right.
Like to try and score to try and get into dominoes from the ball going through the net as well. Like that's not just settle for we call it our go phase, like because that's what we say is go.
Right.
We didn't want to just settle for fast break when we got a defensive stop. We wanted to continue to push the pace of the game. And yeah, this is just a great example of us playing in dominoes. Like we get 2 on the ball there, we get a kick out. Eber makes a great skip and a late arrival to our best shooter, and we make the bucket. Like that's could we have created a better shot if we walked it down and ran a set? Probably not. Actually, I 100% know we wouldn't have. So yeah, like that. When we did a good job of playing in these kind of broken play, domino situations, we had a lot of success. Yeah.
And then that sort of ties into my last question. It's one I ask every week about transition threes being yay or nay, without being married to the result. Obviously, this is a big time shot by your best player, but what's sort of your viewpoint overall on the transition three as opposed to, again, getting it farther down in the set, et cetera? Like, can anybody shoot it? Does anybody have a green light? If not, what has to happen in terms of getting that green light from you?
Yeah, I think with our team, it was definitely personnel driven. Like we wouldn't have everybody shooting the transition three, but I think, yeah, it goes back to what I say. Like if we can create an open three 4 seconds into the shot clock, really, what is the difference between that and the open three in the last 4 seconds of the shot clock? Well,
right.
You've actually worked potentially a lot harder to create that one in the last 4. So yeah, just following kind of the analytics of the game. Like we sometimes as coaches make it more complex than what it is, and I'm a big proponent of playing fast, uh, and I think you can play fast by design too. Like we have some principles. Like we're trying to get wide and deep. We want to fill those two corners.
Right.
We want to either kick the ball ahead, kick the ball opposite, or dribble push. Like those are our three options with the ball handler. The person with the ball, they want to play fast but not in a hurry. Like everybody else is sprinting their lanes. You need to be the one who's a little bit more controlled, a little bit more precise. And then for our bigs, it was either they're putting heat on the rim or they're setting a drag screen. And if they're trailing the play, they're spacing. Like, can we create the 2-on-1 on the weak side? We had some really good shooting bigs. So if we could create that 2-on-1, the kick extra, green light. Like that's a good shot for us.
And these conversations would happen with your players, right? Like it would be like, yeah, this is good for us, or this is bad for us because of, whatever reasoning.
Absolutely. Like a big part of our video review was the go phase, which is, the first 8 seconds of the shot clock. That's kind of what we called it.
Right.
And then our flow phase would be like, okay, we had some actions. If we didn't get anything, if we were completely neutral after we ran and filled our lanes, like we had some actions that corresponded with the geography. So where we were on the floor, we could get to some triggers, basically some quick actions.
Right.
And if we wanted to walk it down, which like clearly we did, we had a lot of half court sets as well. We would then call something from the bench mainly. Actually, we didn't really have the kind of leadership that really wanted to take that responsibility on of like, this is the set we're going to run, which is fine. You don't always need that, but they needed to understand, like, perception action wise, like, okay, we're grabbing this rebound. Your eyes need to be up the floor straight away, and we're in go. Like either you're going yourself, you're kicking ahead, you're getting it opposite, and and then find the 2v1s. Where's that 2v1 so we can find a high value shot.
Love it.
So open threes in transition, absolutely.
Shoot it, put it up.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, well, that's the end of my questions. I want to take a second and really thank you, and also let you know I was excited when you reached back out and said, hey man, I got some time finally to sit down. Haven't seen you in person in a while, and I'm really happy that you would take the time to sit down with me and share what you're thinking over there and what you're doing over there. I really appreciate this. As I mentioned sort of in the pre-game talk that we had, that this is, I believe the 22nd country that I've covered with this show. And just, I'm so thankful for coaches just like yourself to be able to sit down and share what they're doing with me. Thank you. And hey man, it's really good to see you. I'm happy that you're still traveling and still out there doing your thing.
No, I really appreciate you having me on. Yeah, sorry it's been so long. One thing I want to ask you is, what have you learned? The 95 shows now. What have you learned in this process? Like, is there any major takeaways for you?
There's a lot of major takeaways. I think one of the biggest ones that is kind of, I mean, you've met me. I'm brash, man. Like I'm a bit of an ass in terms of the way that I
You're not an ass. You are brash.
but like I've definitely opened my mind more to the concept of different people do things differently, and it could still be good coaching, right? Like there's not one right way in each scenario. And the second half of that is, a lot of the time, like as coaches or as former players, we're really cynical in terms of what's going on in other environments. Like, oh, that guy's a bad coach, or, like clearly he doesn't know how to relate to his players and all that. And it's to be perfectly honest, after doing 95 of these for 2 years now, basically, you really don't know until you actually really sit down and speak with that person. It's like, I actually 100% understand why you're doing that there, as opposed to doing this, which is the way that I would have done it. This makes a lot of sense. Or you're actually really telling your players the right thing and they're not executing. Or this person actually really looks like they're a really good coach, but what's really happening is they've got really good performance there and they don't know much of it. Like the two things that I say would be my biggest takeaway are there's not one right way of doing things, and the perception is very much not the reality in a lot of scenarios. And unless you really sit down and get the chance to speak with that person, those people, you don't really have a clue what's going on. So I think those would be my two biggest takeaways from it. And I've definitely had a show or two where I've been like, ooh, no, can't say I would ever do it that way. But at the end of it, I'm always left with, I respect this person. Like they're able to back up why they're doing it that way, even if it seems messy to me, type deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a huge, it's probably one of the best things that you could have done personally as professional development, to talk to that many people from that many different environments, 22 countries now. That's huge.
Well,
So yeah, like,
no, I appreciate you saying that. Like, I mean, you were here. We shut down really hard in Canada. So this show has kind of saved me emotionally, so to speak, because it was like basketball is one of the few things that makes me really happy. I could talk about this for hours, obviously. And I've had so many great coaches jump on, and it's remarkable to me, Ash, how many people are willing to be fully transparent. Like I've had very few people like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you that. Like,
yeah.
all right, cool, no problem. But
And
like
how
most people
cool is it that people at the highest level too are so open? Like, people, I don't know what it is. Like, I've never ever had a, like a high level professional team or a high level coach say, no, sorry, I don't have time, or no, you can't come to this practice. I've never had that happen to me.
right.
And I'm always surprised by it.
Yeah.
Always.
So I have had it happen, but it's very much so the minority. It's like 95, 97% of coaches are like, come on, man, come watch. Like, and I'm like, this is really happening. This is cool. Like,
Yeah.
I think they don't forget, like once upon a time they were coaches, at the levels we were at, and they're like, no, come on,
Exactly.
man, jump
Pay
on
it, pay it forward always. Yeah.
always. So I'm just going to end it there, I suppose, with one last big thank you, sir. I appreciate. And when you're in town, obviously hit me up. Let's grab a drink and shoot the breeze.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, my
Appreciate it.
pleasure. I'm going to stop the recording there. Hang out for a second or two if you can.
Yep,
Thank
no
you,
worries.
everybody. I'll see you guys next week.